And I can't wait to talk about this crossover, but look how big this paperback is. It's huge. Just a quick comparison, this is a normal size trade paperback right there. But yeah, like I say, this is a big book for big characters, and this is their first crossover. And I really enjoyed it. And since their new crossover is coming out, I thought this would be a good time to talk about it. I also want to mention, because everyone's always talking about Marvel versus DC, and they're always trying to pick a side. And I never really understood why you would choose a side. Like, why would you limit yourself to just one? But in this column right here by Stanley, he talks about how him and the guy who was the head of DC at the time, how they were actually friends. They worked together on some stories, which is kind of funny. Everyone's always comparing the two, making it a big war when in reality they're actually really good friends. But it starts off with Superman, and I really like the setup. This felt like a big event reading through it all because you get a prologue chapter with Superman introducing him and fighting off this, and it all leads into Lex's main plan at the ending, which is pretty cool. But then we switch over to Spider-Man, and man, I say I loved it when it switched over to Spider-Man. These two are my two favorite heroes, so of course I loved this story. But as soon as we switch over to Spider-Man, he starts making me laugh because Doc Ock debuts his octopus, the flying octopus right here. And Spider-Man says, I thought the Spider-Man mobile was a fiasco. And I just really like how he jokes around. But something else is that also shows how Spider-Man prioritizes jokes over anything else. And right here, he's joking around still. And he even grabs Ock and he's about to throw him, but Ock kind of hits him back. And right here, he talks about how he's been stupid and how he's been, instead of fighting, he's been showing off and it almost got him killed. So now he's going to get serious. And that just goes to show how Spider-Man's not really serious all the time when he fights. He's actually more focused on making his jokes. But it's so funny right here with him and Jonah, because this is an older comic, as you guys can tell, but Peter and Jonah's relationship was so funny back then because Jonah believes anything Peter tells him. It's kind of funny because he's telling him that he has the pics, and he's all, just throw it on the front page. You don't even have to look. He's all, just put it on the front page. And they put it on the front page, and this is what Peter got. Just some blank thing, and he gets kicked out, of course. It looks like Jonah tries choking him out, but he ends up just getting thrown out. Then he tells MJ about how upset he is. And that's when all we see is just like a blimp going on, but he ends up running into Doc Ock one more time and then sending him off to prison. And that's where I guess the second prologue ends, and there's the third prologue just showing Lex and Ock being sent to the same prison. And that's just the end of this prologue. It shows them teaming up, shows how Lex made a synthetic epidermis, a false skin, so he could make like a watch. And that watch allowed him to take over Doc Ock's arms, and they broke out, which is pretty cool. But man, this crossover is really awesome. I really like the big pages. It really makes it feel like a big event. But I like this page of Clark and Peter both arriving at this place at the same time. And then there's Jonah right there picking another fight. And it's just so funny watching them argue. I always enjoyed all their arguments, but this right here, I thought this was interesting because Peter and Jonah are arguing over reporting pretty much, taking pictures and all that. And then here, Clark is having a conversation with this guy who runs this, they're like a weather channel, I think, and they're going to have Clark on there, but they decide to replace Clark, and this guy blows smoke in Clark's face. I couldn't believe that happened, man. Just watching Peter and Clark get bad luck back to back was something. I was like the disrespect. But right here, Lois was climbing this ladder. She almost falls, but Peter catches her. And it's funny, MJ sees them kind of getting along, and MJ gets a little hostile over here, and Lois even tells her to put the claws in. I really like that. That's so funny. But Superman shows up, right? And then he just evaporates MJ and Lois, and it freaks Peter out because it happens so quick. And here's another moment I like. Peter runs to Clark and he says, "Where's the phone booth?" I really like that because he needs to go change, but he ends up changing on the roof because there's no phone booths anymore. And then this is chapter 2, so it's kind of cool how there's a lot of setup before these two meet. It makes me look forward to. I kind of want to see how the modern one is going to do, but I'm kind of worried because I heard there's a lot of stories in the first issue, so it's not going to be one giant one like this is. But this is their first fight, and Spider-Man kind of loses track of Superman right here because he says, like, where did he, not where, but he's talking and then he goes, huh, where? Because he's just like here, and then Superman's just gone. But the one who vaporized them was Lex in a Superman disguise. He didn't really vaporize them, he teleported them. But in this fight, I just need to mention it that Lex actually zaps Spider-Man with it's called a red sun radioactive device. That's what they say it is. And it gives him, like, as it says, red sun radiation. So he's able to fight against Superman. And as we see right here, it's very effective as he's knocking Superman around. And Spider-Man is actually wondering, he's like, this is the tough guy that they've been telling me about? He actually thinks Superman's just a common street thug as they're fighting. But unfortunately, as the fight goes on, it does end up wearing off. But right here, Superman gets upset. Not upset, but he gets mad that Superman's knocking him around. And right here, he's about to throw a punch as he says, it's my turn. And then he tells him, what am I doing? He's off. This connects. It'll kill him. So he stops midway. But the wind blast created from this still goes forward and it hits Spider-Man. And it's like getting hit, as it says, with the force of a compact hurricane. And it says Spider-Man flying. So even though it doesn't connect, he still kind of gets flying through this building. But because Spider-Man's he's so acrobatic, he's able to fit through that in that split second and then come out of the other side of the building. It's really cool sequence right here. I like the paneling. Even back then, there was really good paneling. And even right here, this looks cool of Spider-Man flipping around, going up to him and kicking Superman right in the chest. But that's when the power boost wears off. Oh my goodness. And Spider-Man says, so how do you get so hard so suddenly? And then he starts hitting him again, and Superman's just standing there tanking it now. And Spider-Man's like, what's happening? And Spider-Man actually breaks his hands. So this right here, this page is how the fight would really go. I kind of figured it would go like that. So I guess getting the red sun boost was just nice to see what it would kind of look like, but in reality, this was the fight. And just making a page of this isn't really that entertaining, so I kind of liked I got to see a little something. Even Spider-Man got knocked around, so that was cool too. But after that, they team up, and as Superman flies around, this is how he pulls Spider-Man. But they team up, and they try to hunt down Doc Ock. And Lex, it's pretty cool. I really liked it. It escalates pretty quickly. Here it shows a good example of Superman's speed here as he rebuilds a supercomputer from his photographic memory, and he assembles it before Spider-Man blinks an eye, which is really cool. I really enjoyed this crossover a lot. Like a lot. But as I said before, Superman is my favorite DC character. Spider-Man is just my favorite hero in general. And I really enjoyed this. Oh, I want to talk about this that I thought was cool. So Superman hits Spider-Man's web with his heat vision, and it's because of how they interact together, it turns his webs into something that's as hard as steel, which is really cool. I like that combo. But of course they go at it, and they do end up going up into space and everything with legs. I enjoyed all of this. Everything escalated really quickly. We get to see what it'd be like if Superman fought Doc Ock, but it ends pretty poorly as he just rips out the arms from him. But like I said, I really did enjoy this crossover. I would like seeing Spider-Man talk to Lex. And there's a lot about it to enjoy, and there's this tidal wave that Superman takes out. There's just a lot of cool things that happened in the story. I even liked how it ended, because it ends with all of them walking off together as a group. I thought that was really cool. But I really enjoyed this crossover a lot. I'm kind of, after I read this, I kind of don't think, I still have to read it. I don't want to judge the new one before I read it, but I enjoyed how this crossover was just one entire story. Like it had 3 prologues setting everything up, and then the main crossover was 4 issues, and it just felt like it was enough story for it, and I enjoyed every bit of it. So if I had to rate it, I definitely give it a 9 out of 10 or an 8. The only reason why I wouldn't give it any higher is because they had to give Spider-Man a boost in order to fight Superman. But of course that would happen, but still, that's the only thing that I would. It's like the only problem I would have with it, because Spider-Man does seem really weak in this crossover, but it's only because it's in comparison to Superman. That's why. So I don't really have too big of a problem, but that's why I don't want to give it too higher of a score than that. But I really enjoyed this crossover, and I can't wait to read the modern one. But anyways, thank you all for watching, and I hope you all are excited for the modern crossover too.